What up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about crankbaits, especially red crankbaits. People have been asking me about all week what kind of crankbait should I use for springtime. A lot of people have been asking me what colors are good for spring. So today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to break it down for you guys. As always guys, we're on the road to hit 100 subscribers. We're pretty much almost there. And I get all my stuff from either Tackle Warehouse or 6 Cents Fishing. I'm not sponsored by them, but if you like any of this stuff, you should go check them out too. So let's get to the part of the video where we talk about crankbaits. What up guys? People have been asking me all week, hey man, you know what kind of color works for springtime? Should I be using shad color pattern? Should I be using whites, greens, yellows? And I always use reds or oranges. Little green with the orange. It gotta look like a crawl. For mostly red and orange, depending on how dirty the water is. The more dirtier the water is, the darker the red that you're gonna want to throw. Something like this that's darker, it's probably more better when the water is dirtier. Like this Guggen Squad Sriracha. I'm pretty sure this is really good because it has the orange, the black, and the yellow. This would be perfect for springtime. I'm like rattle traps. Rattle traps, you could throw them out there, let them sink down, yo-yo them, and let it down again, and yo-yo it again, rip it through the grass. Yeah, that's how I caught one of my, I think it was a 4 or 5. I wasn't sure. I was just going by the size, but I'm gonna throw the picture up here right now so you guys can see the bass that I caught on this one. This one was a great fish. It gave me a great fight, but I was just pretty much yo-yoing it and letting it down, yo-yoing it and just letting it down, and then I just felt like something just grabbed it. I feel that during springtime the fish come up from the deep and their vision's not that great, so they're kind of murky. So with the dirt and everything, they've been out deep, they can't really see that well. So I think the bright of the red just flashing through him, it just automatically reacts for him to strike and bite. And I think that's really what goes on. And not only that, but if you ever seen a crawl during springtime, it has a little brownish reddish tint to it. For most part, it has a lot of little red on the top and the sides of it. I'm like, when you go next time you go fishing during spring, open a rock, grab a rock, and if you see some crawdads, look at the color, look at the forage. I guarantee you it's gonna be red. And another one too, if you guys ain't using like 6 Cents Curve 55 rock crawlers, you should, because it's like a crawl, because a crawl is swimming like this, it's just jumping back and forth. This is pretty much what's doing. It's just digging into the rocks like this. It's just gonna be digging. So this it's gonna give you the same motion as a crawl, but you have to actually be hitting the rocks. If you're not making contact, you're not gonna get a reaction bite. You need to make that strike when you're bumping into rocks, so it kind of deflects, so that it's gonna be like, oh damn, you know, there's something for me to eat. So I would recommend you to get yourself some, not only 6 Cents, whatever brand of your favorite that you want, but this is what I use. I love 6 Cents. I'm like, this is exactly what I use for most of the part. And also, if you don't got flat crankbaits, because they got the little shimmy move. They don't like this one's. This one, it has a more of a wobble to the sides. This one has a little shimmy. It's just it's a tighter wobble. It's like they can't resist it or they just hate it. So I like to use from flat 75s during springtime, reds and yellows. I caught my personal best on this one. It was 6.5 pounds. I'm gonna throw the picture of it right here so you guys can see it. Bye, big girl. Yeah, but this one right here caught me up my personal best. I'm like, how was you fishing it? I just kept throwing it through riprap. If you always gotta fish where there's riprap. I learned that. I wasn't really good at bass fishing, but by watching videos and people giving me tips, I ended up learning and asking questions around. So I went to this specific place out here in the A15. Can't give you the location, but we were out here fishing, and I just threw this flat 75 crush, and I was just bumping into rocks. There was like I want to say like half a mile of nothing but rocks, just tons of riprap, and I was just swimming it and just crushing it. It was deflecting. Finally, I didn't feel nothing. So when I went to pull, it didn't move. It just sat there. Luckily, I had a high gear ratio reel. I have 8-to-1 gear ratio, and I just seen my line move. So I started reeling, and when he came up, that fish was humongous. It was the biggest fish I have ever caught up till now. 6.5 pounds. I have no words. I still remember that day. But yeah, I always caught my fish between the second week of April and the last week of April. It seems that out here, maybe where you guys is a little bit more different. If you're in Florida, I'm pretty sure it's different. If you're in Texas, I'm pretty sure it's different. California, but we're out here in the northern Illinois, so it's different. We still got ice out here. So I think that for us it'd be better. For me, it's always been better when on the second and third week, the third and last week of April. That's when I catch all my fish on orange. It seems like that's been my key week. Also, not only these, but you can also use jigs. You could use jigs. Something you could put a trailer like a red craw and just hop it or drag it on the bottom. This is not a football head. I would prefer a football head. I just couldn't find one right now, but put a red craw. Like I got this Guggen Squad Alabama craw. It's a bandito bug, and this one's perfect for those spring days that you gotta use it on the Texas rig. Let me take one out to show you guys. I'm like, look at, I'm like, you can't go wrong using the Bandito bug. I'm like, this is a perfect crawl imitator. I'm like, if you look at some of these, it's pretty much the same colors with a little green. I'm like, rattle traps, I'm like, they kind of have the same color. You could literally just Texas rig that as one with a 1/4 ounce or whatever you're comfortable. I use a lot of lead, but I know there's guys that use tungsten. I'm like, this would be a perfect trailer. You can even just, I'll show you. I always ripped up the first part of it. Like, this is the perfect trailer. I'm like, you're gonna have the little orange, you have the reds, the green pumpkin and orange. I'm like, all you could cut these. Normally I do cut the little thing, the little legs right here. The less movement the better during springtime. Because bass are kind of lethargic, they're lazy, they're pretty much just gonna bite if something's coming in front of them. If it's not coming in front of them, they're not gonna bite. So they're pretty lethargic, they're just sitting there for an easy meal to come. So you just throw your crankbait out there, start bumping it off the ground, and if there's nothing, just try to if let's say you're cranking your crankbait and there's no wood, there's no laydowns, no nothing like that, just crank it, jerk it, and pause it, and just real fast, slow, then real slow or fast, jerk it. I'm like, it's gonna work because they're just looking for that little movement that looks different. You wouldn't think, but bass do follow the crankbaits for a long far away, especially during those times. They might not move as much, but there's gonna be them bass and they're gonna be out there roaming around looking for food. So that's my tip of the day for you guys. I'm like, that you guys been asking me for why do you use reds. I'm like I said, for some reason nobody knows, but bass sure love reddish and orange colors during the springtime, especially crankbaits. I'm like, you get some of these, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get a lot of bites. Even if you get them Little Johns, the Little John Spros. My brother paints mine, so I'm like, he buys the blanks and he airbrushes them, but anybody could do that. You can go on Tackle Warehouse and order you a whole bunch of them. They're only like, what, it's like $6 a piece. That ain't bad. That's pretty cheap. I'm like, get you a couple of those, and I'm like, I use those, and I go down, I fish area here in Rockford where I go catch smallmouth on those during the springtime. I won't tell the location because I don't want to get people mad that I'm spot burning, because I'll never do that. Anyways, I'm like, but yeah, red is the way to go, guys. I'm like, if you ain't using red, you ain't fishing it right. I'm telling you, you better stock up on your reds, because spring is here. Well, it ain't here, it's about to come here. It's in a couple months from now. It's almost gonna be March. I'm like, snow is gonna start melting, ice is gonna start going off. I'm like, better get them rods, them gear ready, have it ready. Make sure you order yourself a good cranking rod. I just ordered me a brand new loose cranking rod. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm like, I only use 12 pound test line for fluorocarbon for cranking. No bigger than that, because you want your bait to go deeper. The bigger the diameter of the line, the higher it goes. So you want the smaller diameter, the deeper they dive. So So hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit. I know it kind of went out a little bit out of ways, but this is how it specs to me. I'm like, I wanted to make this video. I've been thinking about making this video for a little while. People kept asking me all the time, and that's just my theory on how to get bit on crankbait. So see you guys next time, and enjoy your day, guys. Fish on.